She spent 5 years preparing for a career in investigative journalism. Her walls were covered with cutouts from The Hindu and The Guardian. Her role models weren't influencers, they were truth tellers. She studied political science by day, wrote freelance by night. She interviewed sanitation workers, sat through the local court hearings, filed RTIs, and learned to verify documents and fact check claims. And finally, she cracked it, got into a prestigious journalism school on scholarship. The same school that had once produced some of the country's most fearless reporters, many of them backed by elite institutions, legacy media houses, and powerful editorial protection. But just as more students like her, first gen, small town, non network began entering the journalism schools, the scaffolding began to vanish. Newspaper budgets were slashed. Independent outlets faced legal crackdowns and advertiser boycotts. Digital media consolidated into clickbait farms and billionaire mouthpieces. Field reporting gave way to SEO briefs. Long form journalism became a luxury. Editors admired her curiosity, but said there was no space for what she was trained to do. One outlet offered her a job rewriting press releases, and another asked if she'd consider video listicles. Meanwhile, many of the legacy insiders had already moved on into punditry, corporate PR, or global foundations. The system hadn't rejected her, it had simply expired just as she arrived. This wasn't a locked door. This was a door that vanished precisely when the public began to reach it. Some systems don't keep you out, they simply end before you ever get in. Not because you were late, but because access was always delayed until the system had nothing left to offer. It's not just exclusion, it's obsolescence with perfect timing. You arrive and the stage had already been dismantled. This isn't rare, it's everywhere. You'll hear it in older voices. This used to be a great path back in the day. If you had started 5 years earlier, now it's all changed. But for many, especially those without legacy access, there was never a back in the day. They were preparing while the stage was being toned down. You're told you were too slow, but really, you were never in the room where the time was being decided. Not all exclusions are loud. Some wear the costume of access. Private banking promises bespoke services, but only if you already hold like $10 million in assets. Even when the bank introduced lower tiers, the real tools remain hidden behind a velvet curtain. In 2022, UBS required $50 million for full family price office privileges. It's open, but never really yours. University gates swing wider, yes, but legacy clubs, elite societies, and donor pathways still guard the inner circle. First gen students may reach the classroom, but rarely the corridors where the power circulates. In one 2023 study, 43% of Harvard's white students were legacies, athletes, or donor affiliated. The gates opened, but only to the lawn. Some systems mimic inclusion through honors. Hereditary titles in the UK or Gulf states may give way to life peerages, but land, lineage, and parliamentary power stay within the families. In the House of Lords, over 90 hereditary peers still vote, elected by other peers. You're recognized, but never inherited. In Silicon Valley, startup dreams are marketed as meritocracy, but 75% of venture funding goes to founders from just 3 elite universities. The pitch decks are public, the introductions are not. The gate is open, but only if you already know the doorman. And politics? On paper, anyone can run. In practice, dynasties dominate. In India, over 30% of the MPs in 2019 came from political families, with higher percentages in ruling parties. Outsiders occasionally win, but rarely stay. They let you in, but only the heirs get to stay and rule. This isn't a modern glitch, it's a well-worn script, repeated across time. Just as new groups gained access, the price moved, the rules shifted, or the structure hollowed out. For example, the French Revolution promised justice and land. Laws were passed, estates seized, But real redistribution never came. Instead of going to the peasants who had worked the land, the properties were sold to bourgeois elites who could afford them. The doors opened and the floor given away. Or look at the Black GI Bill in the US. The post war GI Bill promised education and home loans to all veterans, but black veterans returned to a segregated reality. Banks denied loans in black neighborhoods. Colleges limited admissions or outright refused them. The policy was national. The exclusion was local. The structure was visible, but the access was engineered to disappear on arrival. In India, there was the Brahminical monopoly in education. For centuries, knowledge in India was gated by caste. When reforms finally opened to Dalit, Bahujan, and Adivasi students, the goalposts moved. Suddenly, success required English fluency, private schooling, and expensive coaching centers, precisely the resources these communities lacked. The gates opened, but to a new fortress. In the modern world, these systems didn't disappear, they just changed costumes. What once operated through bloodlines, sacred texts, and royal decree now runs on credentials, networks, and code. But the logic of exclusion remains. Once you needed a sacred lineage to be trusted, now you need a prestigious degree. Ivy League diplomas, startup fellowships, and global think tanks become the new priesthood, signaling who gets heard. It sounds open, anyone can apply. But without legacy, mentorship, or financial buffer, the climb is vertical. Credentialism doesn't dismantle class barriers, it disguises them in Latin and LinkedIn. Power used to pass through bloodlines and guilds. Now it flows through warm intros, founder networks, and dynasties that swap last names for brand names. You'll see open job listings and application portals, but key decisions still happen over private dinners and alumni calls. Gatekeeping never vanished, it just got better at smiling. Ancient texts once barred entire castes from learning. Today's knowledge is gated through NDAs, algorithms, and closed AI pipelines. Yes, we live in an open knowledge economy, but the real tools remain behind paywalls, patents, and invite only repositories. The language changed, but the secrecy didn't. Exile used to be public and brutal. Now it's algorithmic. No trials, just demonetization, shadow bans, and quiet deplatforming. Your voice isn't silenced, it's simply buried. You're told you still have a free speech. Yes, but no reach. Feudal landlords extracted rent. Modern platforms extract percentages. Gig apps, housing bubbles, and tech monopolies accumulate capital quietly through fees, control, and scale. We are told disrupt them, but the moat is deep and the tools are locked. Feudalism didn't vanish, it updated. The old elites gathered in temples and royal courts. Now they gather at Davos, demo days, and elite conferences. You can live stream the event, but can you pitch there? Can you afford the ticket, the visa, the reputation? Access is global, but only if you're already inside the right circle. And the pattern doesn't stop with power and policy. Even outside those centers, in culture, visibility, and luxury, the same playbook persists. Systems that look open, feel new, or promise escape quietly mirror the same exclusions. Even outside traditional power structures, newer systems mimic the same playbook, projecting openness while ensuring exclusion. Country clubs, for example, memberships claim to be open, but selections hinge on culture, wealth, and networks. Creator economy platforms, marketed as equal opportunity, but early influencers, algorithmic bias, and platform deals ensure latecomers start at a disadvantage. Yes, a few do break out, but that doesn't make it open. It just makes the illusion stronger. For every overnight success, thousands create in silence. The system rewards visibility, but visibility itself is now reserved for the visible. Let's take the most recent one, space tourism, marketed as the next great frontier, but priced at hundreds of thousands per ticket, accessible to only billionaires and celebrities. It promises public participation while functioning more like a private show. A future dangled for all, but experienced by a few. This is the pattern. The elite design a stage. They talk of inclusion. They say, one day this will be yours too. So people study, train, and sacrifice. They wait for their turn. And just as they're about to step in, the curtain drops. The show moves elsewhere. The audience is dismissed. Then comes the smile. Calm, confident. You missed your chance. But the truth is, there was never meant to be a seat for them. It's not just economic loss, it's existential disorientation. You prepared your whole life for a stage that didn't exist by the time you arrived. You built your identity around a future that quietly expired. Your sacrifice wasn't just effort, it was belief. And when that belief collapsed, it took a part of you with it. You were told to earn your seat, only to find the theater dismantled. You mastered the rules just as the game changed. And yet, in the margins, something else stirred. Where formal systems failed, communities created their own. Informal learning circles sprung up where classrooms excluded. Mutual aid networks fed and housed when institutions vanished. Folk knowledge, oral memory, and solidarity became tools of survival and of dignity. Even when the gate never opened, people built windows. This isn't just about who gets in, it's about what's left of them when they finally do. The structure still stands, but the meaning is gone. The gate opens after the prize is removed, the ladder pulled, the script rewritten. So ask yourself, what happens when the gate opens but the garden is gone? What do we owe those who shaped their lives for access, only to inherit the ruins? And how do we build systems that don't collapse the moment others arrive?